all started about 6 months ago. No, maybe even 7. Yeah, 7 months ago. When we moved into the new house. It was in the same village, Stedham, Sussex. Karen and I had lived there ever since Sebastian was born. It's a beautiful little village, really perfect. We instantly felt safe, like we were at home. When Jessica was born, it was a little bit of a squeeze, fitting a family of 4 into a 2-bed semi-detached. But we made do, until we could afford to get anything bigger.
Our old house was such a good family home, it was really sad to have to move. But when Jessica turned 7 and she was still sharing a room with her brother, we thought, enough is enough. We knew it was time to move. Then one day, Adam came home from work and said that he'd just driven past Rodendale House, just down the road, and that there was a for sale sign up outside.
After I got home that night, we talked for hours about that house. We'd only noticed it a handful of times, but it was a nice enough house.
The best bit about Rodendale was that it was only just down the road. It meant we could stay in Stedham. So the next day, we phoned up about viewing the house.
It was a nice enough house, at first. Good size, affordable. Everything we'd wanted. It was only when we'd been there for a couple of days we first noticed.
The Jamesons had been living at Rodendale House for, I believe, a week or so when they phoned me up. They sounded very worried. I remember Karen saying she'd never seen Jessica behave like this. I'd known the family since they moved to Stedham, must have been 10 years ago. Karen especially has very strong faith, and so when Jessica began acting out of character, of course, she turned to the church first.
Jessica had always been a good girl ever since she was born, just like any other 7-year-old girl. Happy, carefree, cheeky at times, but overall a very well-mannered little girl. Well, it had been a couple of days since we'd moved, and suddenly she changed. She started acting strangely. I knew something wasn't right. She was being very quiet, not like her at all, and when I asked her what the matter was, she said she didn't know. It was very frustrating. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I assumed it was normal, new house and all. It had been a stressful couple of weeks, and we were all tired. I just thought she would get over it. Perhaps it was just a phase, but I thought it just kept getting worse.
Jessica would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming and dripping with sweat. She said she'd had a bad dream, but wouldn't tell us what it was about. She had the same nightmare every night for a week, and what was really strange was that she always woke up at 3:30. Always 3:30, every night.
Jessica hadn't ever had any trouble with night terrors, neither had Sebastian. It was just something we knew nothing about. We were completely in the dark.
As time passed, things got worse. She began to draw pictures unlike anything she'd ever drawn before, things that, I'm certain, she'd never seen before. Her imagination became out of control.
It was awful. She'd stopped eating, her teachers were worried about her schoolwork, and she barely said a word at home.
Doctors couldn't find anything medically wrong with Jessica, and so I didn't know who to turn to. That's when Karen, being raised a strong Christian, suggested we call Reverend Peters, local vicar and dear friend. Well, I couldn't come up with a better idea, so he gave him a ring.
In most cases, possession occurs mainly in young girls. It's an age of emotional vulnerability, hormonal imbalance. They're easy targets for demonic spirits to latch onto.
When Reverend Peters mentioned the possibility of possession, it scared me to the point where I felt physically sick. I was scared to tears. Surely Jessica wasn't possessed. She'd been christened. We took her to church regularly. Not our Jessica, the sweet, caring, innocent little girl. She was such a good little girl. But as Reverend Peters explained some of the signs, it began to realise maybe he was right. Maybe Jessica really was possessed.
Jessica was displaying typical symptoms of demonic possession: nightmares, introversion, sinister thoughts. But seeing as these hadn't manifested themselves as violent outbursts, there wasn't a little I could do. It wasn't advanced enough to call for an exorcism, so I told Karen and Adam to keep an eye on her and to call me if things got worse.
So the night terrors, bizarre drawings and silence continued. I was worried about Jess, but Karen trusted Reverend Peters, and so there was little I could do. It only got worse over the next couple of weeks.
Jessica's behaviour escalated to the point where she was lashing out, kicking walls, punching doors. But the strangest and the scariest thing was, one day we found unexplained scratches all over her back. We knew then that it was something supernatural. We knew it was serious.
The final straw came after about 2 weeks. It was something I'll never forget. The image will haunt me for the rest of my days. Sebastian and Jess have always fought with each other, but never anything serious, nothing more than a few pinches here and there. Well, one day, Karen and I saw Jess do something she would never have dreamt of before she changed. It was then that, although I don't believe in ghosts, I fully believed that Jessica was possessed.
I got another call from Mr. and Mrs. Jameson saying that the situation had got worse, that Jessica's tendencies had become violent, dangerously violent. Karen told me how she walked in on Jessica holding a dinner knife and approaching her brother, Sebastian. Jessica was being more argumentative than ever at this point. They told me how she would pinch or kick Sebastian at any given chance. I knew then that Jessica's condition had progressed quickly. She was putting people in danger, or rather, the evil spirit that had possessed her was. Ultimately, they asked me if I recommended they do anything.
When Reverend Peters suggested an exorcism, I thought he was joking. I mean, I didn't realise people actually did those things. They were just something you saw in horror movies. It felt like we were in a horror movie.
Adam isn't religious. He thought exorcism was just some superstitious rubbish. But as I trusted Reverend Peters to do what he thought was best, besides, what other choice did we have?
We arranged a date for the service and agreed that it would be better for Jessica if we performed it in her room, a measure we only take in extreme circumstances.
The day of the exorcism came. It was a Thursday. I remember distinctly because Reverend Peters arrived at ours after his morning sermon. He sat us down, told us the order of the ceremony, and that, should she get too violent, it would be necessary to tie her down.
He assured us that the Christian faith considered exorcism to be a cure and in no way a punishment. He said that Jessica's behaviour was not her doing at all, that she was not in control of her actions, and it was down to the demonic presence that had exploited her purity and vulnerability. He assumed that the new house had been the trigger for her demonic possession and insisted on blessing our house to prevent any further occurrences.
I'd only ever witnessed exorcisms. This is the first time leading a ceremony, and initially it went without disruption. Karen calmed and settled Jessica in her bed, and I began proceedings by saying the Latin prayers of St. John. It was only when I appointed the crucifix with holy water that we started to provoke the dark spirit within her.
It was so traumatic to watch at first. Jessica cried out scared. It wasn't until Reverend Peters got out the Holy Cross that it was obvious that an evil entity had completely possessed her.
When Jessica started to become violent and angry, Karen and I were instructed to bind Jessica's hands to the bedposts to avoid her harming anyone, or even herself. Her screams and shouts were almost unbearable. On several occasions I had to stop Karen from leaving the room. It was very hard to witness.
It was necessary to tie Jessica down after she began convulsing. Victims have been known to cause great harm to themselves and others. Convulsions can be very dangerous. Jessica became very disturbed by the presence of the cross, spitting and biting to repel me from my prayers. It was very obvious that we had unsurfaced the unwanted demon, and, inevitably, it wasn't very happy. It was shouting obscenities across the room, mainly aimed at me.
Finally, after Reverend Peters had said the final prayer and anointed her forehead with holy water, she suddenly went limp, as if she'd passed out, and all went silent.
As soon as he gave the signal, Karen and I went over to Jessica. He said she was cured, that the demonic spirit had been expelled. She was free from possession. It shocked me how quickly she had changed, from kicking and screaming to completely silent, almost sleeping peacefully.
I couldn't believe it, how she just changed, just like that. But I was so thrilled. I got my little girl back.
After the service, I stayed in the house just until Jessica came to make sure the ceremony had fully cast out the demon. It was about half an hour or so till she had properly recovered. She was very tired, exhausted from the fitting, and also considerably dehydrated from sweating. But other than that, she seemed to be the very same good Christian girl that I had baptized when she was but 1 year old.
I thanked Reverend Peters and he left. He told us to keep an eye on her and call about him tomorrow about her recovery.
After the exorcism, Jessica seemed to be completely normal. She was sleeping and eating. Her schoolwork was better. Everything was fine.
It was astonishing what that service did. It was a miracle. Reverend Peters had performed a miracle. We had our little baby girl back.
Up until this day, Jessica's been fine. She's the same happy-go-lucky girl she ever was. It was such a relief. In fact, every time she sees Reverend Peters at church, she thanks him for what he did and how he saved her, although she says she can't remember much of it.
Exorcism really was a lifesaver. I don't know what we would have done without it. And now we've got the house blessed and we can sleep sound and know that nothing will happen to Jessica. She's safe from any evil spirits. We're just one big happy family again with 2 beautiful, healthy children, and that's the way it will stay. I hope.